I drove for a rideshare app for 2 years, and one passenger changed everything. I started driving for a rideshare company when I lost my job at the factory. It was supposed to be temporary, just something to keep the lights on while I figured things out. 2 years later, I was still driving strangers around at 3 in the morning, listening to their drunk confessions and awkward silences. I had seen it all. Couples fighting in the back seat, businessmen doing cocaine off their briefcases, a woman who gave birth on the way to the hospital and named the baby after me. I thought nothing could surprise me anymore. I was wrong. On a cold night in November, I picked up a woman outside a diner on the edge of town. She was young, maybe mid-20s, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans that looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. Her hair was tangled, her eyes were red and swollen, and she clutched a brown leather journal against her chest like it was the only thing keeping her alive. She got in the back seat without saying a word and handed me a slip of paper with an address written on it. The address was 4 hours away, deep in the mountains. I almost refused. Long trips were risky this late, and something about her made the hair on my arm stand up. But she offered to pay triple in cash, up front, and I had rent due in 3 days. I took the money and started driving. The first hour was silent. She sat in the back, staring out the window, her fingers tracing patterns on the cover of the journal. I tried to make small talk. She didn't respond. When we crossed the city limits, she finally spoke, and her voice was so quiet I almost missed it. "Do you believe in monsters?" I laughed. I thought it was a joke. Then I looked in the rearview mirror and saw her expression. She wasn't joking. Her eyes were wide, her lips pale, and she was trembling. I asked her what kind of monsters she meant. She said, "The kind that wear human skin." I should have turned around right then. I should have dropped her at the nearest police station and gone home. But I didn't. I kept driving. Because she had already paid me. Because I was curious. Because I was an idiot. She told me her name was Mara. She said she had been running for 3 years. Running from a man she called the Collector. He wasn't a lover. Not exactly, not a stranger either. He was something in between, someone who had entered her life when she was vulnerable and made her feel safe, then slowly, methodically, dismantled every part of her that could fight back. She said the Collector didn't just hurt people. He collected them. He kept journals on everyone he had ever taken. Their fears, their habits, their breaking points. He studied them like specimens, learned everything about them, and then, when he was done, he made them disappear. Mara was the only one who had ever escaped. She stole his latest journal before she fled, the brown leather one she was holding, and she had been running ever since. I asked her what was in the journal. She opened it and started reading names. Dozens of names. Each one had a date next to it, a location, and a single word. Some of the words were things like fire, or water, or buried. Others were more specific. Staircase, mirror, lullaby. I asked her what the words meant. She said, "It's how he chooses to end them. Each one is different. Each one is tailored to the person. He says it's an art." I felt sick. I pulled over at a rest stop and asked her why she was going to the mountains. She said the address she gave me was a cabin that belonged to her grandfather. She thought she would be safe there, at least for a while, long enough to figure out her next move. I asked her why she hadn't gone to the police. She laughed, and it was the saddest sound I had ever heard. "The Collector is the police," she said. "His real name is Detective Alan Marsh. He's been on the force for 20 years. He's the one they call when people go missing. And he's the reason they're never found." We drove for another hour in silence. I didn't know what to say. Part of me didn't believe her. It sounded like a conspiracy theory, like the ravings of a paranoid mind. But another part of me, the part that had seen too much of the world from behind the wheel of my car, knew that monsters were real. I had driven them to their destinations countless times, smiled at them, wished them a good night, and never thought twice. The road began to climb. Trees pressed in on both sides, their branches like skeletal fingers scraping the roof of the car. The GPS signal started to flicker, then died completely. I was following Mara's directions now, turning down roads that barely existed, gravel paths that wound deeper and deeper into the forest. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the Rideshare app. A new passenger request. But I hadn't turned the app back on after accepting Mara's trip. I glanced at the screen, and my blood turned to ice. The request was from a user named Collector. His pickup location was my current location. His destination was the same address Mara had given me. I showed the phone to Mara. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just closed her eyes and whispered, "He knows. He always knows." I asked her how that was possible. She said he had access to things normal people didn't. Databases, tracking software, satellite imagery. He had been watching her the entire time. Every move she made, every person she talked to, every car she got into. I was part of his game now. I tried to call 911. The call wouldn't connect. I tried to text my girlfriend. The message wouldn't send. My phone was no longer my phone. A text appeared on the screen from an unknown number. It said, "Keep driving or she dies tonight." "You too." I showed it to Mara. She nodded slowly, as if she had been expecting this. "Do what he says," she told me. "For now. There's something at the cabin he doesn't know about. Something that can stop him." I asked her what. She didn't answer. She just stared out the window at the darkness between the trees and said, "Drive faster." We reached the cabin at 2 in the morning. It was small, made of logs with a rusted metal roof and a chimney that hadn't seen smoke in decades. The front door was already open. Mara didn't seem surprised. She walked inside like she had been there 1,000 times before. I followed her, my heart hammering, my hands shaking. The interior was covered in dust and cobwebs, but there were signs of recent activity. A laptop on the table, a stack of printed photos, a map on the wall with red pins stuck in various locations. Mara walked to the fireplace, knelt down, and pried loose one of the stones. Behind it was a metal box. She opened it and pulled out a revolver. "My grandfather was a hunter," she said. "He taught me that the only way to kill a predator is to become one." I heard a car pull up outside. Headlights swept across the windows. The collector had arrived. Mara handed me the revolver. "You have a choice," she said. "You can run, or you can stay and help me end this. But if you stay, you have to be willing to pull the trigger." He won't hesitate. Neither can we. I had never fired a gun in my life. I had never been in a fight. I was a rideshare driver, a former factory worker, a guy who just wanted to pay his rent. But I thought about the names in the journal, the dates, the single words that represented how each person spent their final moments. I thought about all the rides I had given, all the people I had dropped off at their destinations without knowing what was waiting for them. I stayed. The door opened, and Detective Alan Marsh walked in. He looked exactly like what he was, an ordinary man. Average height, average build, a slightly receding hairline, wearing a brown jacket and holding a flashlight. He smiled when he saw Mara. "You led me on quite a chase," he said. "I appreciate the effort. Most of them give up too quickly. It's boring." Then he looked at me. "And you, the driver. I didn't plan for you, but you'll do. Every collection needs a bonus piece." He reached into his jacket, and I knew he was going for a weapon. I raised the revolver. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely aim. He laughed. "You're not going to shoot me," he said. "You're not a killer. I can tell. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I can always tell." He was right. I wasn't a killer, but Mara was. While he was focused on me, she had moved. She was behind him now, holding a fireplace poker she had picked up from the corner. She swung it with both hands and connected with the back of his skull. He dropped like a stone. She hit him again, and again, and again. By the time I pulled her off him, he was no longer moving. Mara was crying, her face streaked with tears and dust, her hands bloody. "It's over," she said. "It's finally over." We called the police from the cabin's landline. Not the local department, but the state police, the FBI, anyone we could reach who wasn't connected to Marsh. They arrived at dawn. They found the journal, the laptop, the map with the red pins. They found evidence linking Marsh to 23 disappearances across 4 states. They found the remains of 17 people buried in various locations, each one corresponding to a name and a word in the journal. The case made national news. Mara testified. I testified. The story became a documentary, a podcast, a book. People called us heroes, but I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a man who was in the wrong place at the wrong time and somehow survived. I still drive for the rideshare company, but only during the day now. I never take long trips. I never accept cash payments. And every time a passenger gets into my back seat, I look at their eyes in the rearview mirror and wonder what they're running from, or what's running after them. Mara and I don't talk anymore. She moved somewhere remote, somewhere no one could find her. I don't blame her. Some people spend their whole lives trying to escape the monsters. Some of us just give them a ride.